We'll try it one more time. See if it's working this time. Got a lot of information tonight. I got a lot of information to give out to try to make sure that everybody is. Yeah, now we're streaming. Okay, for all the Facebook people, I'm sorry. We just got. We had a little trouble for some reason getting live, and I don't know why, but it appears. Yeah. So I'm gonna start this part over one more time. The radio people, I apologize for this, but I just want to make sure I'm gonna back this up because we're live and we're on part 2 of the practice of chiropractic, and for some reason we didn't get hooked up to Facebook. So I'm just gonna kind of review what I said because I really want you guys to understand this. I really want what we're doing tonight or what we're doing this week is we're trying to explain chiropractic to all the people out there that might be new to our office and exactly how everything works. So we did a really in-depth start last night to the definitions of chiropractic, what the chiropractic code was according to the state of Texas, so that you can kind of get an idea of what we're doing in the office. And so I really think it's really important to make sure that we express that to you so that you get a good feel about what's going on. And I was explaining how when you go to a doctor, you go to a doctor with a problem. You start with some sort of problem that took you to the doctor's office a lot of times. Now, in a wellness office, we get a lot of people who come in that just want to stay well. They want to be well and they want to stay well. But a lot of times something's bothering you. So you go to the doctor because something's bothering you, and then the doctor's going to do some sort of exam. They're going to do some sort of testing or exam or something to give you some sort of, to get some sort of idea that's going on with you. And then from that exam, they're going to give you a diagnosis. And then from that diagnosis, they're going to give you a treatment plan that's supposed to address your problem. Whatever they've diagnosed, really, is what they're going to give you. Now, in my office, I'm not really interested in a diagnosis. People say, well, what is it? What did I have? And I'm like, it doesn't matter to me necessarily. I understand the reason that you would want to have a diagnosis so you can explain it better. It's more understandable to a certain extent. But what my real concern is I want to know why. Why are you having this problem? And the problem, it may show up in an area that has nothing to do with why you're having the problem. Shoulders are a great example from that. And tonight, later on, as we get into the show, I'm really going to show you about like really what's going on in the shoulder and how you say it hurts right here. You know, it's like it's on this. I got this pain that's right here in my arm, and it's like, okay, but you don't have any damage to that shoulder. There's nothing wrong with that shoulder. And if I give you a diagnosis of shoulder dysfunction, it's like it's not doing us any good. It's not doing you any good. I could give you a couple of shoulder exercises or whatever, and we might change the way that shoulder's functioning. But what we really want to know, or what I really want to know, and sometimes it's crazy to say this, but sometimes it's way more important to me than it is to the patient because they're not really sure what I'm doing, right? It's like I don't want your shoulder to malfunction, but why is your shoulder why is it malfunctioning? And that's kind of what we're looking for we're looking for the why, right? What is that thing? And so last night what we did is we went over the word subluxation. Subluxation. And really, I'm not going to get into the in-depth definition of that, but if you want to go back to last night's show, you can watch it again, and you can go through the deep the deep definitions of what a subluxation is. But really, to be very simple, it's interference in your nervous system. Subluxation is the interference between your body trying to talk to your brain and your brain trying to talk to your body. And whenever you have subluxation, it leads to disorder or dis-ease. And they used to say this in chiropractic, it was dis-ease. They put a hyphen in the middle of that for the dis-ease part. So not disease, but dis-ease. It's malfunction. It's something, it's causing your body to not function properly. And that's really what you want to solve. You're like, I want my shoulder to quit hurting. I don't necessarily need to know all the in-depth parts of why my shoulder's hurting. I just need you to solve that. So from the moment you call and the moment you walk into our office, my job, my focus is to detect and correct your subluxations. Where do you have interference in your nervous system? Where is your nervous system not functioning properly? And it was 25 years ago this week that I actually, for the first time, learned what that word meant. I got my first adjustment in 1987, and I had no idea what chiropractic was from 1987 to March of 2000. So I went for that whole period of time, is the fall of 87 to the spring of 2000. So I went for that 12-year period of time right there and a half, and I didn't understand what chiropractic was. If you would have asked me, what is chiropractic? I'd be like, I don't know. You get your bones popped and you feel better. And when you say that to someone, it's like, what? That sounds a little fishy, don't you think? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I can't really explain it. I don't know. It's like I had this thing in my neck, and then my brother-in-law adjusted my neck, and then that thing is not there anymore. Like, it's better. And well, how did that happen? Well, I don't know. I don't really know. It just happened, right? So I lived that life from age of 17 to the age of 29, and I didn't understand what chiropractic was. And I run into people all the time that have no idea what I do for a living. They think it's like some sort of back pain thing, like you pop your back. And it's kind of cool now a little bit to a certain extent because we've got so much internet stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people that put microphones next to the chiropractic table and they adjust people and you hear the bones pop and all that sort of thing. And it's like the joints release, really. But they're making a show out of it, right? Which is fine because it's creating attention. Some of that stuff is ridiculous that I watch, but it's creating attention and it's kind of getting people to talk about it a little bit. So tonight I want to get into, if my job is to detect and correct subluxation, interference in your nervous system, tonight what I want to get into is what causes subluxation. I mean, that was my first kind of question. If I'm supposed to figure out why you have subluxation, then what is the cause of it? It's like, all right, why are you getting that? And the answer to that goes all the way back to 1895 when D.D. Palmer first started chiropractic. They used to say toxins, traumas, and autosuggestion. That's what the old guys used to say. What we say now, or what I say now, is physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. It's a combination of the three things together. It's the physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. And if you were to graph that out, and you were to look and say, okay, and I'm going to go through each one of these things in depth tonight, and I'm going to talk about each one of them so that we really get into a deeper understanding of what's going on. But we're going to work off of this. We're going to work off of this little graph tonight, and it looks like this, maybe. There we go. Okay, so if we were to actually, let's change that color. If we were to draw a graph, and we're going to draw this symptom line. And I know all the people that regularly watch the show, you've seen this lots of times, but we're going to draw this symptom line, and we're going to say that your physical, chemical, and mental emotional stresses, we're going to add them all up. All right? So if we could somehow figure out how much physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress you had. And we could graph it. If I could somehow quantify it, and it's not possible to quantify it. I mean, we might could come up with some metric that figured out exactly what that would be, but for the most part, it just have to understand it. Is your life very physical? Has your life been very physical throughout your lifetime? Are you someone that what kind of physical stress do you have? Are you a bull rider? Are you a motorcycle rider? Cross, whatever. You race motorcycles. Are you a construction worker that does a lot of lifting? Do you build houses? Do you work on a ranch? Do you like what is it? Or the opposite of that, you sit at a desk for 8 hours a day. That's physical stress as well, right? So if we could somehow say, all right, this is how much physical stress that I have. And then how much chemical stress do I have? And I'm going to go into that in just a minute. And then how much mental emotional stress do I have? And my body can only handle so much stress. It can only handle so much of that. So when I add all that together, then the distance between your physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress and your symptom line is how much room you have to adapt. It's how much room you have before you're going to feel your symptom. And so if you add any more stress, let's say you just drive from Lubbock to Dallas. Let's say that you spend the weekend working in your yard, cleaning up your yard. Let's say that you're moving somewhere, or you help somebody move, or Texas Tech blew up last week, right? Like we had a tunnel that blew up. You guys probably saw that on the news. Like I got some guys that have been working 16, 18-hour days trying to fix that problem. Those guys that are responsible for the whole campus and all the buildings and all that stuff. I adjusted one of them tonight. He's been busy as heck. He's had to rearrange his adjustment 3 or 4 times in this last week to try to find a time that he can get over here and get adjusted, right? That's just a extra stress that you put on your body. And when you do that, now you cross the line. And it doesn't have to be physical stress. It can be mental emotional stress. You can have another day of mental emotional stress, whatever your mental emotional stress is. Or it could be chemical stress. You can push yourself to the limit chemically, but you can cross the line, and now all of a sudden you've lost the ability to adapt, and you're going to get a symptom. Your body is going to create a symptom, and a symptom is a feedback mechanism to let you know that you have your body in an environment that's incongruent with health. We are taught that symptoms are wrong. And I lived that way for 29 years. And then I went to work for my crazy brother-in-law who was a chiropractor. And then he started teaching me about symptoms. And it's like, why does your body create a symptom? Why do you create a fever? Why do you create acid reflux? Why do you create fatigue? Why do you create a muscle spasm? What is going on in your body that's causing this pain or dysfunction to happen? Why is that happening? Well, it's happening because your body has this innate intelligence, and your body is trying to show you, hey, look, you've got me in an environment that's incongruent with health. Either physically, chemically, or mentally, emotionally, you're treating me wrong, and now you've pushed me to my ability to adapt. You cross the line, and then all of a sudden, you feel the symptom. Okay, and that's the physical, chemical, and mental emotional stresses. Now, a lot of times, a pain management clinic works on this side. Pain management works on this side. And I mentioned them last night. I mentioned the Joint and those other places like that. I don't have any problem with those places. It's just a different product, right? You can go. Sometimes those places are super handy. You just need to run in there and get adjusted because you're under care someplace and you just are stuck at, we're in Fort Worth or something and I got a headache. I just want to run in there and get adjusted. And so I don't have any problem with them, but what they're going to do is they're going to treat you. They're going to look at you from this standpoint, and they're going to say, all right, we just need to get you below the line. Whatever their treatment plan is going to be, its goal is to just get you back to that place right there. And then what happens is, now you add that same physical, chemical, or mental, emotional stress again, and you cross the line, and now your neck hurts, or your headache comes back, or your shoulder's not functioning anymore. And so you go back and you get adjusted, and they just move you back down below the line again, and then time goes on. And then, so what you do is you just live your life going back and forth over the top of that line. And the reason you get adjusted is based on your pain. You're like, my neck hurts, I'm going to go get adjusted. And that's a pain management model. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that is a model that a person might use to choose if they want to get chiropractic care or not. That's just say, hey, that's the way that, because a lot of times they get that model. That's what I did for 12 years. I used that model. And because I didn't understand what chiropractic was, and I didn't understand what a subluxation was, and I didn't understand anything, really. And so the difference is, in a wellness model, wellness doctors like to live on this side. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to drive this down as much as we can. I would rather you live down here. I really would rather you live on the line. But I want to try to drive that level down so that you have a greater ability to adapt. Now you can go, you live your life, and you can add this extra stress on top of it, and you don't even ever feel it. And then we get you adjusted, and we move it back down. And so it's like, is this unnecessary care? No, it's not unnecessary care. If you go do your physical exam, your yearly physical exam, and you get your blood work, and your cholesterol is 250, then your medical doctor is going to say, hey, your cholesterol is really high. We need to do something. Here's a statin. We need to give you treatment to get your cholesterol down, right? And you say, well, doc, I feel fine. And he's like, I know you feel fine, but your blood work says that you've got a problem. Same thing with your dentist. You go to your dentist, and your dentist says, hey, you've got a cavity going on in there. And he's like, yeah, but my tooth doesn't hurt, right? I'm not up here. I'm down here. I'm below the symptom line, but you have something underlying going on, right? You're not perfectly healthy on a Monday and die on a Tuesday of a heart attack. That's not how it happens. You don't have a perfectly healthy tooth on a Monday and wake up on a Tuesday with a cavity. There's a process that was moving in this direction. It was moving upward. And then all of a sudden it crossed the symptom line and you felt it. And I'm going to really get into that this week too, because I really want to talk about how you feel it, right? So I think it's super important to try as hard as you can. I would rather, to be quite honest with you, I would rather spend my days working with wellness people than working with pain management people. Now, there's times where my wellness people come into the office and they've done something to themselves and they're up here, and we got to take care of them. And we've got things in the office that could do that. We have tractioning, we have decompression, we have lasers, we've got things. It's not like we're not capable of doing that, but it's not something that I just don't. It's not inspiring to me to deal with people that are in pain all day long, every day. I don't want to do that. I would rather say, hey, look, let's take you from here and move you down here, and now let's create a plan to keep you down here. But when we do that, we have to analyze you differently than the way someone else would analyze you. Because I'm not looking for pain. I'm not looking on a pain scale. If you say, hey, doc, if I check your posture, which you guys have come into the office, and I said, hey, stand right there, and I just want you to stand there, and I just want to look at you. Sometimes I have you close your eyes and move your head back and forth, and that's an analyzation, but I don't ask you what your pain scale is. But if you were to come in and you were to say, and you were standing there, and your head was standing there like that, and you were crooked, And you say, I feel great. I'm like, well, you feel great, but your head's on crooked today. To me, that's something that we can analyze. That's why we use the right eye. That's why we use the reflex. Those are the things that we use in the office that's why we look for posture. We're doing those sort of things. So we got to take a break. We'll be right back, and we'll continue with this. We're going to get into the physical, chemical, and mental emotional stresses right after the break. So stick around with us. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we'll be right back. Because we'll talk while we're on the break, but because I like to work on the lower side of this. We have to look at things a little bit different, but we also have to study. That's what we're fixing to get into, is the physical, chemical, and mental emotional stresses that cause us to move off of this line towards that symptom line. That's why if you've watched the show, and you guys that are new really haven't watched the show enough, and you haven't really understood it, but I'm probably the world's biggest fan of fish oil. Everybody that watches the show just probably laughs right now because they're like, yeah, he talks about that every week, sometimes every show. Yes. Why am I the world's biggest fan of fish oil? Well, it's one of the things that drives us off this line. And I will definitely get into that with you to explain why that is. Why eating whole foods, eating the proper diet gets us off of that line as well. Why we need to exercise, why we need to walk, why we need to move our feet. Those are all things that are super important to keep us below this line and keep driving us down away from that symptom. I don't want us to live our life. I don't think you do either, right? You don't want to live your life in pain. And when you're in pain, I heard a great saying. I even sent it to myself. It was really great. I don't know how to share it. But it was some guy on. I don't have it right now, but he said when you have your health, you have 1,000 problems. When you have your health, you have 1,000 problems. But when you lose your health, you have one problem. And I was like, that is so awesome right there, really. Because that's the truth, right? We've got so many things that we're worried about when our bodies are working the way they're supposed to work. We worry about all the other things that we could possibly be worried about. And then the day that our body quits working the way that it's supposed to work, all of a sudden that becomes the biggest problem that we have, right? Our health is vital to our existence on earth. We got to keep our health. We got to keep our health right, and we got to get our health right, and keep our health right in order for us to make it. So let me get us back online. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and I want to get into the physical, chemical, and mental emotional stresses and talk about those things. What are those things? So it's pretty easy when we're talking about physical stress, and what we're saying is we're putting our body in an environment that it no longer can adapt. Like we've pushed it past the limit of being able to. It's like you sprain your ankle playing basketball, you twist your knee doing something, you try to lift a couch, it's too heavy, Or you're lifting a couch with somebody else and they drop it before you set it down, and then it hurts your back. You put yourself into a position somewhere that is wrong. You sit at a desk all day long, and you've got a keyboard in front of you, and your head's forward looking at, and you're typing, and you're looking at your computer screen, and what do? You get this burning right there at the base of your neck, right above your shoulders, right there at the base of your neck. That muscle just burns because of the physical stress that's taking place right there. Like that's a physical stress. We've pushed our muscles function. We have gone through our electrolytes, our magnesium and our potassium, and we've become dehydrated. Our calcium is wrong. Like the muscle function is now wrong. The neurology to the muscle is wrong, and now we can't handle it any longer. Those are physical stresses, right? We got in a car wreck. We crashed our motorcycle. We flipped a four-wheeler. We lifted something too heavy. We unloaded a whole truck full of hay or feed or whatever. I think the physical component is pretty obvious about what's going on, right? The physical component is pretty easy. The chemical component gets a little bit more complicated because we don't ever really talk about it, about what a chemical stress is. And there's so many different chemical stresses. Paint thinners, insecticides, pesticides, cleaning materials, inks, glues, partially hydrogenated oil, high fructose corn syrup, artificial colors and sweeteners, ultra refined foods. There's like yesterday, in West Texas yesterday, the wind blew. It blew horribly all over the earth, or all over America on Friday. And then yesterday the wind blew. And last night we're sitting there and watching the basketball game, and we're just breathing the dirt in our living room. Just breathe it. Like, okay, what's in the dirt? Is it just dirt? Or is it chemicals? Like, what about all the Roundup that's sprayed all over the fields? Like, all of the things that are in the air, all of the chemicals that are in the air, they all get into our bodies. And now our bodies have to deal with those chemicals. And the biggest thing about that is I can't control the wind. I've tried that. I can't control the wind yet. I'm still working on it. I can't control some of those things externally, but I can control the high fructose corn syrup. I can control the amount of sugar that's in my body. I can control the ultra processed foods that are in my body. I can control if I'm getting some of that stuff, the chemicals. I can, from a certain extent, I can control the chemicals that are getting on my skin. And if you get chemicals on your skin, they're in your body. They will be in your liver. If a chemical gets on your skin, it will be in your bloodstream. It will be in your liver. I grew up on a horse ranch in Roswell, and my dad trained racehorses for a long time. But at the racetrack, we used to use this product called DMSO. And some people actually use it on themselves. But when you're handling that, if you get DMSO on your fingers, it's like less than 2 seconds or 3 seconds, you taste it in your mouth. That's how quickly, like you can accidentally get a little bit of that chemical on your fingers, and you can taste it in your mouth. All chemicals, deodorant, hairspray, cologne, whatever, makeup, heaven forbid something like Botox, like injecting botulism toxin in your face, like that's all that sort of stuff is chemical stresses. So we really want to control. We want to try to the best of our ability, if we're trying to achieve health, we want to try to control those chemical stresses. Medications all have side effects. Statin drugs, Tylenol is one of the worst ones. Acetaminophen has all kinds of research on how damaging it is to the human body. And there's so many different things, the ibuprofen and all of that stuff. We want to stay away from that stuff because it's damaging to the human body. One of the statements that I used to be told was that we bleed internally 2 tablespoons every time we take an aspirin. And I just thought about that when I was, March of 2000, 25 years ago. I thought about, wow, I don't want to bleed internally. Like, what does that mean? Like, I'm going to bleed internally? Like, no, no thanks. Right? Like, what? And it's there's damaging effects. We could go through some of those sometime. We break them down. We broke down metformin one time on this show and how it clogs up the mitochondria, and that's why your liver doesn't release glucose and all that sort of thing, right? So we got to watch out for chemicals. And then that third one is mental emotional stress. And mental emotional stress is sometimes something that people don't want to talk about. First of all, they don't understand that explaining to their chiropractor their mental emotional stress feels like their chiropractor just turned into their counselor. And I have a lot of patients tell me that. They're like, "Are you also a counselor?" And I'm like, "No, well, yes, kind of. I'm a doctor, and doctor means teacher, and I'd be willing to bet you that's pretty close to counselor. But no, I don't have a license. I don't have I'm not a licensed counselor, but I can understand the neurology behind mental emotional stress." There's a great book by Bessel van der Kolk. Let's see words. I think it's right there. Let me see. Yeah, it's called "The Body Keeps the Score," and I've done uh, multiple online seminars, getting a certification that goes along with what these guys teach and what is taught in this book and what Bessel teaches. The body keeps the score, and it's the manifestation. It's the physical manifestation of mental emotional stress. What is happening inside of our body that's causing us to malfunction? And it's with mental emotional stress. So I can have 3 patients come in, and they can all be sitting right next to each other, and they can all be dealing with shoulder problems and neck problems and headaches. And I can't tell you, I get a little bit closer as I get older, but I really can't tell you, but just by looking, which one of those people just fell off a ladder and got a physical stress, or which one of those people drinks alcohol and Dr. Peppers all the time, or which one of those people is under a mental emotional stress. Like, they all three, you can come into the office and manifest the same exact symptom, but your symptom can be caused from one of those 3 things. Almost always, it's going to be one of those 3 things, or a combination of those 3 things that you've lost your ability to adapt. So, if I really understand the causes of subluxation, the causes of interference in your nervous system, and that's really the cause of your problem, because if you didn't have any interference in your nervous system would be working perfectly, and the chances that you would have some sort of problem would be very, very small. If you come to our office and you had enough intention to actually make a phone call, to schedule an appointment, and then drive all the way over here to the office and then go through our first day exam, you must have had some reason that was very important to you that you wanted to solve, some problem, right? You wanted to solve a problem. And so it seems to me like it's very important to you that you would like to solve this problem. And so I need to look at all of the different factors that might be related to that. It's just hard for us to talk about mental emotional stress sometimes. We don't want to talk about the mental emotional stress in our lives. We want to hide that over there in the corner, but the problem is the body keeps the score. It keeps that stress inside of us, and it keeps rising until we're no longer. I mean, we could redraw our little graph, and if we did, and we I can show it to you this way. There's the graph. Here's the symptom line. Here's the physical, chemical, and mental emotional stresses. But the physical stress is very small, and the chemical stress is very small. But the mental emotional stress is very large. You could draw this graph in any combination that you wanted to draw. Your mental emotional stress may be super, super low, but you just have a super physical life. You may eat really well and really clean and have very little mental emotional stress, but you just have a physical life. And that's what is causing your problem. That's great. There's no problem with that. You don't have to, just because we talk about it doesn't mean that you have to have a mental emotional problem. But sometimes it's any combination of those. Sometimes it might just be straight chemical. You might just live off of donuts and sodas and sugar, and you never eat a vegetable, and you never eat anything that's whole food, and you've just you're so chemically stressed out that your body you're not really physically stressed out, and you're not really mentally emotionally stressed out, even though it's really hard. Those two things match. But this mental emotional part is super important. So during your interview, I ask you those questions. I ask you, any depression or anxiety? What was going on with it? And because I was trying to determine if you had any mental emotional problems that were contributing to your foot hurting, or your legs cramping, or your back hurting, or your headache, or whatever the thing is that you came into the office for. Okay, so let's look at that, and just I want to show you, and I've done this lots of times on the show, but I know that for the new ones, I want to show you, now that we're talking about physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress, how your body functions. And if we were to look at your brain, if I was to draw your chiropractic picture, and it would look something like that. This is what I'm trying to analyze right here. And you have a brain, and that brain has a right side and a left side, and it has a top and a bottom. So it's divided into basically 4 quadrants. And now that's very simplistic, but for the most part, there's 4 quadrants right there. There's a right side and a left side, and a top and a bottom. Then you have a cerebellum, and that cerebellum is responsible for balance, coordination, and posture. Then you have a spinal cord that's running through there, and it's covered by vertebrae, and and then at the bottom you have a sacrum right there. So in between those vertebrae, you have a disc. And then there's nerves that's exiting the spine on all the sides. At every level, you got nerves that are exiting the spine. And that's kind of the structure of what's going on right there from a chiropractic standpoint. Okay? Now, functionally, it's very important that we get your nervous system to fire properly. And I'll talk about this a lot on the show. Your brain receives 3 trillion bits of information per second. 3 trillion bits of information per second. Okay? So you're getting a lot of input into your brain. And I like to use this example. Right now, you're not thinking about your foot. Except for right now, you're thinking about your foot, right? 5 seconds ago, you weren't thinking about your foot until I said foot, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what's wrong with my foot? Yeah, of course, I could feel my foot, right? But you weren't, because the majority of input into the brain is inhibited. The majority of input is turned off. Turned down, not off. It's turned down because your brain can only handle so much input. There's only so much information that your brain can actually process. If your brain was going to process 3 trillion bits of information per second, your head would be gigantic. I mean, you would need a lot of processing power to process all that. But that's not what your brain does. Your brain says, no, look, I need to determine what's the most important thing right now, and I need to deal with that, and I don't need to worry about that other stuff. So what it does, it just dampens a lot of that. It just inhibits it. That's why one of the things I say a lot is healthy people inhibit. Healthy people are able to control their nervous system and their function because they can turn off a lot of things that aren't supposed to be turned on. They can turn them down. So you're receiving this information, and globally, how it works is your brain fires up and to the right. And the up and to the right part is what is determined to what your brain is really looking for. And I know you guys that watch the show all the time, you're like, oh no, he's going to do this again. But yes, it's really important if you're new to the office that you understand this. Okay, so your brain is going to deal with the threat first. Is there a threat? Is there an alligator or a tiger that's going to eat you? That's what your brain does first. And it's not going to do anything else until it does that. That you can imagine. There's no other thing that's more important than if you're being threatened. So it's going to deal with the threat first. And in the process of dealing with the threat, it's going to fire your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight response. That's going to get kicked off. So the first thing that's going to happen, as soon as you walk into a new room, you come into the office, it's the first time you've ever been in my office, you come into the office, your right hemisphere is looking for tigers and alligators. That's what's going on. You want to know what's happening over there on that side. Anytime you go into anywhere, if I was to walk out of my office right now and walk into the hallway, my right brain would fire first because I haven't seen that hallway in the last 40 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever it's been. I've been sitting here at the desk talking to you. I don't know if there's somebody in the hallway. I don't know if there's a person with a machine gun in the hallway, or if a dog got in the building and there's a pit bull in my hallway. I don't know that. So when I turn the corner, my right brain fires, and my right brain looks for threat, and that releases cortisol. This fires right down to your adrenal glands, and your adrenal glands is going to release cortisol. And cortisol is going to turn off your cerebellum. And because your brain no longer needs posture, your brain's not worried about posture, your brain or balance, your brain's worried about whether or not there's a threat. And this is going to happen really quickly. It's going to be microseconds. It's like, bam, right brain fires. As soon as my right brain recognizes that there's nobody in that hallway, there's no tigers, there's no man with a machine gun, there's no pit bull or anything, then what my brain is going to do is it's going to send the big picture over to the left side. It's going to send that big picture over to the left side and get it out of my right brain. The big picture in this particular case is hallway. It's my brain, my right brain is going to tell my left brain I'm in a hallway. Now my left brain is arrogant and cocky. My left brain is like, dude, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Of course this is a hallway. Like, I've been in this hallway 1,000 times. So your left brain is a know-it-all. Your left brain's kind of a show-off. And part of that is because your left brain never sees a threat. If you were never threatened in your whole life, ever, you would just be walking around like nothing, like you'd be so cocky it'd be ridiculous, right? And that's what your left brain is, because it's like, dude, I don't understand why you guys are scared. What is the problem around here? Like, what is the issue, right? The left brain never deals with the threat. And this is your parasympathetic or rest and recover part of your brain. If you're going to rest and recover, if you're going to get any sleep, if you're going to be able to digest your food, if you're going to be able to have an immune system, you're going to do anything like that, you got to have parasympathetic activity going on right there. And this is where you take the big picture and you move it over to the left side and you work out the details. And when you do that, your senior class, which is your upper brain, dampens your freshman class, which is your lower brain. And now you've got that right there, that's like health to me. If we can accomplish that right there, you're going to rock life. You're going to have very few problems of any kind. Your body's going to function great. You're going to sleep great. You're going to digest your food. Your immune system's going to work. Your reproductive system's going to work. Your posture's going to work. Your tone is going to be great. Your balance is going to be fantastic. You're not going to have hardly any problems at all if we can accomplish that right there. Like that's what I think is health. Now I know that sounds really crazy. I know it sounds really crazy, and you're like, what? I don't even get it. Like I don't even understand that. But this is the one time that I say, trust me, I'm a doctor. No, I'm not. I really do hate that. I hate that sentence, right? It's like, this is how your brain works. This is how we get to achieve the level of health that you came to see me for. So, when you're mentally, emotionally stressed, or when you're physically stressed and you're not moving your feet, one of the big things, and all of you guys that are dealing with anxiety and depression, because this right side over here, the threat is really, it's dealing with the unknown. And normally how this works is it works in microseconds. If there actually was a guy with a machine gun in the hallway, it would be really quick, most likely. Like he would shoot me, or the pit bull would eat me, or I'd kill the pit bull somehow. Like it's going to be like a very quick thing, 90 seconds, right? 90 seconds or less of stress, and that's it. It's over with. But that's not how stress works for human beings, right? It's like we all have way more higher levels of stress than that. So what happens when we get stuck over here in this right hemisphere? Well, what happens is this 90 seconds turns into an hour. Think about standing in that hallway with the guy with a machine gun for an hour. Think about that pit bull looking right at me for an hour. He's just sitting there growling at me for an hour. I can't get out of the building. Like, what am I going to do? I'm stuck, right? What if that hour turned into a day? What if that day turned into a week? What if that week turned into a month? And that month turned into a year, and then another year, and another year, and another year? What if I had that stressful event that was in my right hemisphere that I can't get rid of? I can't get the unknown out of my right hemisphere. And what I'm doing is I'm firing this pathway over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And all of a sudden, I'm getting this whole chemistry that's going on in the brain. I'm getting this stress chemistry. And what I'm going to end up with, and I'm going to break it all. I'm going to break down the stress chemistry tomorrow night. But what I'm going to end up with right now is I'm going to end up with anxiety. Because I'm facing a stressful event that was supposed to have been over in 90 seconds, but it's not. It's still right there in front of me. And so my body has shut down any future decisions. And a lot of times it starts right here in the central part of our body. The number one thing that it'll start to shut down is digestion. You'll get sick at your stomach. You'll have a knot in your stomach. You'll have acid reflux. You'll have constipation or diarrhea, irritable bowel. Your digestive tract will just go haywire right there. Then the next thing that's going to happen is your immune system is going to shut down. Because your gut bacteria, your microbiome is going to get all crazy, and then your immune system is going to shut down. Then the next one is going to be reproduction. And some of you ladies know that you've been stressed out. Some of you ladies have been so stressed out you missed your period. Right? Like there was so much stress that it just didn't happen, right? Because your brain's like, nope, we're not reproducing anyway. And then the last one is posture. And now we've lost that muscle tone, and now we start having orthopedic problems in the shoulder, the low back, the knee, the hip, the foot, wherever it may be. That's the end of the show. We're out of time for tonight, but stick around for tomorrow night, and we'll really get in depth into the chemistry and the biochemistry of stress. You guys have a great evening. Sorry, I had to cut that off so fast, but yeah, we'll pick up with this tomorrow night, and we'll really explain to you what's going on with your digestion, with your immune system, with your reproductive system, with your posture, and then how anxiety, depression, ADD, all those things all kicks in. We'll get into adrenaline and dopamine. We'll really break it down for you tomorrow night. So thanks for your patience. If you guys are regular listeners of the show, I really appreciate it. I really needed to get this out to some people, and it doesn't ever hurt for us to just be reminded of it. You guys have a great evening, and I will see you tomorrow night.